Good morning, y'all. Happy Sunday to you. Welcome to live. Yeah, I did a little bit of a check here on this live stream. According to Dave Gatton, um, last week's video, when it first went up, it was the first 5 minutes of it was me sitting here, scratching my nose and kind of tapping around and chatting with people in the chat. And then all of a sudden, I clicked the button on the tab and we went live, or I went live, and then started the show. But like the first 5 minutes of the video was me just sitting here, goofing around, tapping around on the computer. So I had to go back and edit that out. So for about the last 3, 4 minutes, I've been talking to no one. And then come over here and I start the live stream and I see that's what some folks were watching. So I'll go back and edit that out. Good morning, y'all. Happy Sunday. Let's see here. We're looking at, Steve from Harniel Media is in the house. Jeff over at Restorer 66, Cynthia Minnick, Kevin Els, Jim. Howdy, y'all. Thanks for joining in. Troy is with us too, Troy Pritchard. Um, Live Q&A number 9, ready to get going. Take your questions on the zero plane video I did, that went live this morning. I've already had several questions on it, so let me go ahead and address the big one right now. As I was speaking when I recorded that video, I totally forgot that we were working in subtractive mode for the model. And so I threw the subtitle up there. I'm in subtractive mode. And I've already had a bunch of questions on, well, what happens in additive mode? If I was to do that all in one video, it would have been way too long. So I decided to go ahead and split that up. And what I'll do, the next video I do on the zero plane, I'll do additive mode so you can see the difference. It's not as dramatic as subtractive, but it does make a difference. We have some new folks saying hello. Brian's Woodshop, David Krause, Alan Prince. How you doing today in Bath, UK, Alan? Jim Hester, Mike Smith over at Fountain Crest Woodworks, Ron Coffey. Good morning, or good afternoon now, officially. Working with it in additive mode, it's not as dramatic as in subtractive, but it will make a difference. The main thing is that I was trying to get across in that video is it's a combination of the way the 3D models are created and the way it interacts with the surface of the material. Because, as I pointed out in the video, just left on its own, that jagged edge that's part of the model is caused by the way that model is created. Basically, those models it's a height map of a bitmap trace. So bitmaps are basically made of pixels, and the way the 3D modeling is done in the Vectric software is it uses those pixels. And the darker the pixel, they're grayscale images. The darker the pixel, the deeper the cut. The lighter the pixel, the shallower the cut. Well, when you get up there around those edges, it sees where that light color fades off into white, and it thinks that's the edge. It thinks that is supposed to be carved. That's part of the model. So the use of the zero plane in the subtractive combine mode, it basically fills in those rough edges so that the software doesn't attempt to carve that edge. So that was the point that I was trying to get across in the video this morning. I don't know if that helps or not. But let's see, we have Mike Smith wants to know, if I have a dome shape within a dish, what do I need to do? Well, there are a couple of things. It really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. This gets back into assembling a composite model, and I will put a link to that video down in the description after this video goes live and becomes just a standard video. But assembling the composite model, you would want the dish to be first, then your dome second, because the way the modeling software works, the way it carves, the hierarchy is it starts at the bottom of your component list and works its way to the top. So you'll want the dome, you'll want the dish, then the dome. You may have to bake them together. You may not. Again, I'll put a link to that video down in the description after this video goes live as just a standard video. And this is the time to experiment. Import your dish, then import the dome on top of it, and get everything set up, and just try it. Preview, do your 3D roughing and 3D finishing toolpaths if you need to, and just try it. Speaking of which, I've had a lot of people ask me, do I really need a tapered ball nose? What's the difference and what's the benefits? I think next week that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to do a video on tapered ball nose versus a standard ball nose, the differences, the benefits, etc. And maybe that'll kind of settle a little bit. There are some definite advantages to a tapered ball nose, but strictly speaking, they're not necessarily required. Just depends on what you're doing. So let's see what we got here. Jose Rodriguez checking in from Brazil. Holy cow. Let's see. Richard Weiss in North Carolina. Larry from Ontario checking in. Jonathan W. Mr. Jonathan, holy cow. Man, if you have never watched any of Jonathan's videos, if you're a car guy or gearhead like me, and you want to see somebody who can take absolutely nothing and make some of the coolest looking machines, hot rods, cars you have ever seen, I mean, Jonathan is your man. Hit those three little dots next to his name over there in the comment section right now, and right click, go to channel, open that in a new tab so you don't shut me off, but check him out. I mean, you talk about somebody who's qualified to make anything out of nothing. He's in the middle of a hot rod build now. Speaking of which, what are you doing watching me? You should be knee deep in that hot rod, Jonathan. Wow, that's cool. He's my hero. I want to grow up to be like Jonathan. So, Joni Jensen, howdy. John DeRoos just got here. Had to wait for your computer to update. I feel your pain. That's why I don't touch anything for like an hour before I go live. Let's see. Sergio from Manchester. Dave Gatton, CNC Builder to the Stars, is with us. So, does anybody have any questions on the video that I put up this morning on how to use the zero plane, what it's for in a subtractive combine mode, or why it's even necessary? And I'll wait for the chat to kind of catch up here and kind of take a swig of coffee while it catches up. Feel free to partake in a beverage of your choice. But, okay, I don't see any questions at all. Well, thank you, Jonathan. I do appreciate that. He says he's taking a break, just enjoying my show. I really do appreciate that. Um, God, I just wish I was closer. I could probably spend a lifetime digging around your reject pile. Not that your reject pile is very big. I've seen what you can do with nothing. Dave Gatton wants to know why the video was only 13 minutes. It was only 13 minutes because I didn't want it to be an hour and 13 minutes, which would have been very, very easy to do. You know me, I can talk about nothing for a half hour. Uh, so I decided to split it up because there are several uses for the zero plane. And it's so I figured start with subtractive since that's the most dramatic demonstration of it, because you can see how it'll fill in voids around the edge of the drawing. In the additive combine mode, it's a little bit more subtle, and there are a few more things to get done. So it's I figured start simple, start dramatic, and then folks will kind of get the hang of it. It's just to show the 3D model where the surface of the material is. Setting your Z0 in the job setup tells the software where you're going to start carving from, but it doesn't tell the software where you're starting to model from. So it just adds that in. Uh, Jeff over at Restorer66 wants to know how long it would take to carve that dish. Good question. Let me jump into the program and check. It would take approximately, well, with the bit and the feed rate and everything else I have set for it, it says 2 hours, but it's an 11-inch dish using a fairly small bit. So, and it's a pretty deep dish at that. But I don't normally I don't take those time estimates to heart. Let me comment on that. I take a little bit of ribbing when it comes to the feed rates I have set in my software. And basically I was taught by Dave Gatton, the man who's forgotten more about CNC than I ever learned. I was talking with him one day, and he taught me to start slow, start conservative, and bump it up as you're cutting. With the software that I'm using, Mach 3 controller software, I can bump that feed rate up as it's cutting, and I see how it goes. So I might be starting at 40 or 60 inches per minute, but that's not where I'm going to stay. As soon as that bit hits the material and I see how it's cutting, I start bumping that puppy up. And it may end up cutting at 120 or 140 inches a minute. But I start slow because every piece of material is different. So let's see, Alan Print. So basically my point in that is those time estimates are basically right out the window because the minute I start jumping up the feed rate, they're irrelevant. So let's see. Alan Prince wants to know what is the bake function. The bake function is when you take two components, and I don't think this is available in VCarve. I don't remember. You take two separate components like that dish and that dome you were talking about, and you bake them together so it becomes one component. It just kind of blends them together so that it's one model. So that's another video down the road, believe me. Let's see. What the heck is... Barry Curtis wants to know what the heck is G43 and how can I get rid of it? I'm having to edit every file. It's set at 8 inches. That I do not know. I don't know much G code at all. I would post that over in the Facebook groups. Ask that question there. There are tons of people who know more about G code than I do. Believe me. Jonathan W. thinking about a CNC plasma table. Just don't know where to start. Where to Start is the man right above you, Dave Gatton. He has forgotten more about CNC than I have ever learned. I'm not a metal guy, Jonathan. But Dave is a sheet metal guy. And he may not have a CNC plasma table for you, but he can definitely tell you where to start, for sure. He taught me everything I know. He didn't tell me everything he knew, everything I know. But I would definitely get a hold of Dave Gatton. He will at least point you in the right direction. So, sorry, Dave, I just caused you a bunch of work, but you're the authority. He's my Obi-Wan. So, and thank you for the thumbs up, Dave. So, let's see. Does anybody have any question on the zero plane at all? Or anything else that we've discussed in any videos? G43 is tool offset. Okay, that's a help. So now what would cause that tool offset? Every file, it's set at 8 inches. Now, Barry, are you sure that's 8 inches and not 0.8? Because there is a home position when you first start. But thinking about it, I don't know if that's G43 or not. So, yeah, I really need to sit down and learn some G code. I know what I use. And believe me, I am not a CNC expert. Dave is. I am not a CNC expert. I just know what I use. And so I'll draw the design in VCarve or Aspire, save the G code onto a flash drive, take it outside, plug it in, and start cutting. So I don't get into, I know maybe 1/3 of what Mach 3 is capable of doing. And I'm firmly in the belief that if it ain't broke, leave it alone. Don't dig around and play, because I want it to work the next time I start it. So, excuse me, there's something else to edit out. So we don't have any questions on the... Oh, Barry's typing with a broke wrist. Oh, man, Barry, that sucks. I hate it. Mervyn Shoemaker in the house. How you doing today, Mervyn? Okay, let's see. Don't see any other questions. Let's see. I think G43... Yeah, I haven't done any videos on the G code, mainly because I said I don't generally dig into it. Okay, it says 8, and you didn't set it. Okay, something you can do to see if it's in the Vectric software is you can when you're finished designing your project and you first shift over to the Toolpaths tab, you have the Material Setup section up there. You'll see a button that says Set. Click on that Set button and look all the way down to the bottom. And you'll see Home Position. Now, normally for Z, it's 0.8. That's why I was asking if it was 8 inches or 0.8. That sets the home position where it doesn't matter any other settings you put in the design. When the bit starts to do that, cut that tool path, the bit will lift up to 0.8 above the surface of the material, then slowly drop down and move over to your first cut. But it always starts at that Z height. So if it's 8 inches, maybe a decimal place got bumped or something like that, that would be a place to look. So you can set that home position, click OK, and it'll leave it there. It'll remember that the next time you start the software. So Jim Hester, haven't done 3D yet, so I don't know what to ask about Zero Plane. Well, um, it's just one of those things that you may never need it, you may never use it, and you may create a different model that doesn't need a zero plane. But it's one of those things that if you don't know it's there and you're having that problem can drive you up a tree. So, but just knowing that it's there and knowing that it's a one-click fix and the problem is solved, that makes people just kind of, oh, you know. So let's see. Let's see. Jeff Restores 66. Mark, you run your files from your flash drive. Have you ever had any problems doing it that way? I do not run my files from the flash drive. I just store them on the flash drive. I take it outside and I transfer the file over to the computer it's running from. Let's see, there's the flash drive I use. As a matter of fact, I never run a file from the flash drive. I tried it one time. I didn't have any problems, but I have heard of other people having problems, and I try to learn from what other people tell me. USB ports go to sleep, and sometimes, depending upon the flash drive, it may not be able to handle the data transfer rate, especially on a real long file. If you're talking about a 3D carve or something like that, it may be a couple of 100,000 lines of G code. The longest I have ever heard of was a fellow in the CNC Router Tips Facebook group. He's a professional. He does this for a living. It was 24 million lines of G code, and it took 56 hours to carve. So USB ports like to go to sleep. USB flash drives can sometimes not handle data transfer rate. It's always better to just transfer the file over to the computer that you're using to control your computer and run from, or control your CNC and run it from there. I do not try to run a file from the flash drive. And that computer, all it ever does is it runs Mach 3. It doesn't do anything else. So I don't have any kind of a problem with transfer rates from the computer, and storage is not an issue. In fact, storage on that computer is overkill. There's 2 hard drives on it. I don't save the G code anyway, so I run it, and then a little bit later on I'll go back and I'll delete it because I don't want to try to run G code more than once, unless it's something that I know for a fact I'm going to be cutting exactly the same way in a fixture or something like that. Let's see, Larry Blair says, I've run 3-hour 3D jobs from a flash drive. No longer have I tried. Okay. Everybody's mileage may vary. You may have a real good flash drive and a real good connection. I just know that if there's a way for me to introduce a problem, there will be a problem. So I go ahead and I just transfer it over to the computer. It takes about 5 seconds. I plug it in, transfer it over, let it transfer, because G-code files are small. If it's a 1 megabyte G-code file, it's a huge file. Usually it's just a few kilobytes. So I transfer it over to the computer, let it finish transferred, then I pull the flash drive out and put it in my pocket so I don't accidentally try to load it from the flash drive. So I've not personally had any problems, but I know of other people who have. So, okay, do we have any other questions at all? John Morrow checking in. Welcome. Roger Cox, greetings from North Texas area. I use a thumb drive on my Laguna IQ handheld controller. Every control system is just slightly different. I use Mach 3 on a standard old PC. It's an old HP that I got for free from a relative. It still runs Windows XP. I'll show you how old it is. And I know some controllers like Mazzo and a few others, you have to run from a flash drive. You can't transfer it onto the controller. I'm not sure if the Laguna is like that or not. So your mileage may vary. I mean, if it's proprietary that makes you run from a flash drive, then, by all means do what they say to do. Mine is a home built CNC router designed by Dave Gatton. And like I say, it uses a standard PC running Mach 3 software. And that's the preferred method with a computer. So, excuse me again. Alan Prince says he's universal G-code sender is Mach 3 better. I won't say it's better. I won't say it's worse. It's just different. Um, folks use Mach 3, Mach 4, Universal G-code sender, Linux CNC, UC CNC, Win CNC. There are, good grief, there are a multitude of different controllers, and each one is a little bit different. They're not necessarily better or worse. They're just different. So it's hard to say. What I say, Alan, is if you're getting good results and it's not a serious pain in the you-know-what to use, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I mean, you can spend money. You can keep spending money adding this and that and the other. Now, I'm still using Mach 3, even though Mach 4's been out for over a year now, but I've never had a problem with Mach 3. I don't see the need to spend more money to upgrade when I haven't even exploited all the uses in Mach 3 yet. The license still works. The software still works. I don't need anything in Mach 4. So, yeah, I could spend the money, but I don't see the need to. So, if it's working good for you, I don't see any reason to change. Let's see. I am changing, Jeff at Restore 66. I'm changing my spoil board from T-tracks to threaded inserts and MDF. What is the best bit to use? It's another one of those cases of where it is no best. If you're drilling holes straight down, do not use a downcut bit. Use an upcut bit. That's the number one. In fact, for that, I would use an upcut bit anyway, because after you get the spoil board mounted, you're going to surface the top of it anyway. So use an upcut bit, and the size is up to you. So Alan Prince said, I would just like to be able to adjust feed rate on the fly. Yep, that is a huge advantage. And there are a couple that will do it. There's some that won't. I would do a little bit of research and see. I think they're still selling Mach 3 licenses. I'm not certain. Now, having said what I said about Mach 4 and Mach 3, that I'm still using Mach 3 even though Mach 4 is out. If I was just starting from scratch and didn't already have Mach 3, I'd go ahead and get Mach 4. So, I mean, you can look into it, but there are other options as well. So, without getting into technical details, be careful of UC-CNC because it only works with their motion controllers. So if you're not using a UC100 or something similar, be careful. So, okay, Ron Coffey confirms, yes, they are still selling Mach 3. Okay, that is an option. But as I said, with newer versions of Windows coming out and the updates and 64-bit systems versus 32-bit, if I was just starting out and looking, I would probably go ahead and get Mach 4. I wouldn't go with Mach 3 because it does have some limitations. Contrary to popular belief, yes, you can use Mach 3 with Windows 10. but it's, I don't know, I would just start with the newest version, something that's still being supported. So, alrighty, Larry Galt. Hey, y'all. Hey, Larry. Okay, well, I don't see any other questions as far as the video is concerned. We've been running about a half hour, so I think I'll go ahead and end this one about right here. Unless anybody has another quick question they want to throw in, I'll start by saying thanks everybody for joining me. I really do appreciate it. And this is live Q&A number 9. It's been an experiment on my part just to see how well it's received, see if folks get any value out of it. So after this video goes live, and I'm not trying to, beg for attention or anything here, just let me know what you think. Is it something that you'd like to see continue, or is it something that's nice and kind of gives you a chance to take a break in the shop? Because if it is something of value, I'll keep doing it. I'm here to try to help folks who have never done this kind of thing before. So it's all about trying to help folks get that light bulb moment and go, aha, and maybe, develop the skills and the knowledge to, show themselves that, yeah, you can do this. I told this story. I've told this story a couple of times. I was brand new to CNC and was just cutting my teeth on it. I had the machine built and I'd done like 1 or 2 projects. And I saw a guy in one of the Facebook chats, or Facebook groups rather, who was just frustrated beyond belief. And he had like an $8,000 machine, and he just threw up his hands and quit and sold it for like $2,500. He just sold it for a criminally low price because he was just so frustrated he thought he couldn't do it. And it was just like, man, that broke my heart. So I'm trying to get folks to see that you can do this even if you've never done it before, that there's nothing magical or mystical, and heck, if I can learn it, anybody can learn it. Because before I started this, I'd never been in the same building with a CNC router. So, Larry, Blair, you do. You just haven't tried. And, make a video, put it up, leave it as private, watch it. Just give it a shot. Somebody asked a second ago, and I'm sorry, I did see your question. I'm sorry. They asked what kind of camera I use. This is the camera I use to record my videos. Just a little Canon Vixia HFR 800 that I got down at my local Best Buy. A little camcorder. And they went on sale, and I got it about 1.5 years ago. I'll put a link to it down in the description after this video, after I find it online, and after this video goes live. It does a real good job. The only complaint I have about it is the power port where you plug it in to charge the battery and to power the camera. You can get dirt, dust, and stuff like that in there, so you have to blow it out. Because if you get a chunk of wood in there, it won't let you plug the power plug in because it doesn't have the little cover on it. But it does an excellent job. I really like it. So, and it wasn't super expensive. The main reason I got that was because it has a plug for an external microphone. And at the time, that was real important to me. Turns out later it wasn't all that important because I didn't like the audio I was getting from my microphone. So, let me find it. The other thing that I got was a little Zoom H1 digital recorder. And that has made all the difference. I know you've seen in the videos, I'm wearing a little lapel mic, and they're just El Cheapo. I mean, I think it costs $3 on Amazon. And I plug it into this and record audio with this, and then when I'm editing, my video editing software will let me take out the audio from the video, and then I sync up the audio from this with that video. So, I don't know. I guess maybe one day I'll do a video on how I do videos. So, so, but Larry, give it a shot. You know, it's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun making these videos, but I'm weird that way. I've been doing videos since I was like 7 years old. I think I got my first 8mm movie camera. So I'm old school. I'm used to actually physically cutting the film, taping it together, and then shipping it out to have a copy made. So doing it like this is a lot of fun to me. So Harney Meal or Harneal Media, for those of you who can speak, says it has value. I learn from other people's questions as much from my own. Me too. That's the way I am. I learn when people ask questions and get an answer, especially if I see it demonstrated. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end it right here. I don't see any further questions. Thank you all for joining me. I'll put those links I mentioned in the description as soon as I go find them. And get out in the shop, make some chips, and have a great rest of your day. Y'all take care.